You could spend months touring Sicily, but we departed from the standard tourist path as we followed the route of the 2nd Chemical Mortar Battalion from their landing in the invasion of Operation Husky, July 10, 1943, to places where they were in combat over the next 38 days. We found many of these locations using the old maps. In some places a general area, and in others a specific building or feature of the land where we knew action had taken place. Here we are at the edge of the Camarina Plain looking west. You can see the Mediterranean off to the left. Those were the beaches along which the 45th Division and 2nd Chemical Mortar Battalion landed. And they advanced across this plain over the next 3 days. Below us here is the city of Vittoria, where Lou Damasi captured a company of paratroopers by talking their Italian commander into surrendering. The town of Comiso, further to the north, was assaulted by the 179th Infantry, supported by A Company. And the airport at Comiso is no longer in operation, but it ran along the straight strip that you can see there, and that was assaulted also by the 179th and Company A. In the distance you can see the Piazza Ridge, a low range of hills that runs along the Cade River. That's the far side of the 45th Division's zone, and everything in the first 3 days took place in the area that we're seeing directly in front of us. This is Highway 115, which runs across the Camarina Plain from east to west. Even in 1943, it was a well-surfaced 2-lane highway, and a major objective of the 45th Division was to cut this road, because as long as it was open, the Germans could and did move troops and armor back and forth across it to counterattack wherever they wanted to. And here, along with the newer plastic enclosed vineyards, we see trees arranged in the pattern of the old orchards that the guys would have seen as they were coming through this area. It was in territory like this that Art Hall got out ahead of the American troops accidentally, and it was through orchards like this that Dirk and Baglietto saw the Hermann Göring Division's tanks advancing. Some of the buildings here look like they might have been around, and some of them you have to wonder if they were there and actually took damage. This is a memorial to the 82nd Division troops who fought here at Ponte di Rilo, the bridge across the Cade River. The Cade River marked the dividing point between the 1st Division to the west and the 45th Division to the east. It was important to hold this bridge because otherwise the Germans could use Highway 115 to bring troops and equipment back and forth between the two zones, and by transporting equipment and troops back and forth they could keep the Americans off balance. George Baglietto's D Company platoon with John Durkovitz as first sergeant had been landed in the wrong position, as had most of the other troops, and they connected with the paratroopers and some men from the 180th and fired on a number of pillboxes in this area in support of infantry attacks. It's quite possible that they actually fired on these pillboxes that we see just up the hill from us here. Hey, this is one of the German defensive points at Ponte di Rilo. It obviously suffered some fire here. This is one of the firing apertures. Inside there's a concrete ring that mounted the rotating device for the gun. And as you look out over here, you can see the entire Husky River Valley laid out in front of you. So just 2 or 3 points here would have been able to hold off a significant assault. In fact, as I stand here, I'm looking right down over the bridge, which was the key point of this defense. With an anti-tank gun mounted up here, clearly you had lots of time to spot and take aim at targets coming toward or across the bridge. At this location we see the entrance, which is several yards away from the obvious observation position. And here is a circular mount for a large external gun. Just below us is a dwelling that, if it was here then, you could certainly imagine the Germans taking up residence. Down the hill are a series of agricultural plots separated by hedges of cactus. The orange trees are in bloom.
An event of some significance in our family was the attack on the Sicily airport the night of July the 13th. My father, Paul Eldridge, was the liaison officer with the 180th Infantry that night. The 45th Division records show that the assembly point was in this valley, and the infantry, with my father, went up this hill. They made their night march across country, but we took the easier route by the roads. The 45th Division records also show that the assault was made from the southwest, which is consistent with my dad's notes. Traveling through the countryside in the late evening light, there's ample reminder that war passed over this area. This is the flat piece of land formerly occupied by the Sicily airfield. Looking to the east, we see a series of numbered square concrete markers. Whether those had anything to do with the airfield, who knows? Looking back to the west, we see some buildings and stock pens made of concrete, which suggests that they are post-war. The 180th Infantry troops, after their night march, took up position in this tree line at the southwest corner of the airfield. It was at this location that Lieutenant Paul Eldridge found himself under fire from a truck-mounted quad 20mm anti-aircraft gun, and a shell popped out of the dirt near his head, and he picked it up and took it home, the only such souvenir that he brought home with him. On the same day, a few miles north, Dave Goodell was approaching the little town of Gramicelli with the 179th Infantry, and at this location a famous incident took place in which a 4.2 round went directly down the turret of a German tank. 3 companies of American infantry had dug in on a hill for the night. About a mile to the north of them was another hill, and in the flat area between, a German tank was firing on the American positions during the night. Dave and Captain Leonard Cooper and radio man John Ward went forward in pitch blackness and called in fire. One round did indeed go down the turret of the German tank, and that became a famous example of the accuracy of the 4.2 mortar, although Dave said that none of them ever saw the target. It was a shot that they fired entirely based on what they heard and where they thought the tank was. This is the ground where that incident took place. The 179th Infantry was dug in on this hill, and it was out into this area. which then had fewer trees, that Dave and Leonard Cooper and John Ward went in the darkness to try to identify the location for the tank and call in the fire. The next morning, the Germans attacked from the northern hill. The white phosphorus fire from the 4.2s was credited with breaking up this attack and saving the position. And Dave fired a number of high explosive rounds into a creek bed, which we see here, causing an estimated 150 German casualties and breaking up an attack which would have circled around into the rear of the American positions and caused a great deal of damage.